Okay, Rabbi said, welcome everybody. And we're on Daf Yud Beis and Beis in the Mishnah. One of the most famous Mishnayos of all time, because we say it at the Pesach Haggadah, there's Pesach Seder every year. And Maskirin Yitzias Mitzrayim Baleilos. So the Mishnah is, Mishnah is making a statement that we mention Yitzias Mitzrayim, the exodus of Egypt, Baleilos at nighttime. As you take for granted that by daytime we say Kriya Shema. So Kriya Shema, of course, has three parshias. You have Shema, V'haftas Hashem Elokecha is Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim, accepting the yoke of heaven upon us. Then you have Hayom Shemaya, is about reward and punishment. And the third parsha of Tzitzis incorporates Yitzias Mitzrayim, the exodus from Egypt. So we say by day, but what about by night? So the Mishnah is saying, Maskirin Yitzias Mitzrayim Baleilos. We also mention Yitzias Mitzrayim, which is the third parsha, the parsha of Tzitzis, which all the Rishonim say is a Chiddush, because Tzitzis, and Tzitzis, we're not Chayiv and Tzitzis Balaylo. You're not Chayiv and Tzitzis at nighttime, so you'd think that you don't say the third parsha at nighttime. Comes out that you do say it. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Famous statement, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Harei ani keben shivim shana. He says, I'm like 70 years old. Most Rishonim say that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was actually 18 years old at this stage, but he was elevated to become the Nasi because the other Nasi, Rabbi Gamliel, was demoted. He was elevated, and he was a person of such stature and prominence now, and became so illustrious that it looked like he was immature because he had a very youthful appearance. So Rabbi Shal made a miracle and gave him premature aging and gave him a nice Weisse Bart, gave him a big white beard at a very young age. There's a whole many different opinions about this. That's the most accepted opinion. He says, I'm like 70 years old. And I wasn't Zeicher. I didn't merit to say Yitzias Mitzrayim Baleilos. In other words, that most Rishonim talk out over here, they explain that he didn't know it was a deraisa, it was a biblical obligation. He thought it was a rabbinic obligation. He said it, he did it, but he didn't know that it was actually a real deraisa to say Yitzias Mitzrayim Baleilos, the third parsha Shema. Ad what? Ad Shedarsha Ben Zayma. Until Ben Zoyma came along and said, Shenemar, and the pasuk says, Laman Tizkor es Yom Tzeitzchem Eretz Yisraelim. You should mention Yom Tzeitzchem Eretz Yisraelim. Kol Yimei Chayecha, all the days of your life. So he says that there's something superfluous over here. Kol Yimei Chayecha, all the days of your life. Yimei Chayecha, the days of your life. Hayamam of the days. Kol Yimei Chayecha, all the days of your life. It means that it incorporates Halelos, the nighttime. So therefore you deduce from here that daytime there's a mitzvah to incorporate Yitzias Mitzrayim as well as the nighttime. Ben Zoyma is very interesting because Ben Zoyma, why was he called Ben Zoyma, the son of Zoyma? It's an interesting attribution or appellation. He should be called either Zoyma, or he should be called what his real name is. His real name was Shimon. There were four people that were called Ben. There was Ben Nanas, Ben Zoyma, Ben Azai, and Ben Pazi. And each of them, their real names were Shimon. And some say that the reason, some Rishonim talk out, they explain that the reason why it was called Ben Nanas, Ben Zayma, Ben Azai, Ben Pazi is to distinguish and differentiate because all the names were Shimon. So if you have, let's say, Shimon Cohen, four Shimon Cohens, you have to give a little distinction to know which Shimon it is. So therefore they called him by the father's name. The interesting thing, though, is that there's a famous Gemara in Talmud, and the Gemara goes through, the Gemara asks, which is the most famous pasuk in the entire Torah, which is the most important? And it's a very, very difficult question to answer. And so Shimon ben Zayma answers, he says the most important pasuk is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which is our credo of Emunah, to say Shema Yisrael, listen, Klal Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And the other opinion is V'hafta Re'echa Kamocha, that's another opinion, that should be that love your fellow like yourself. A whole bunch of different opinions, well really only four different opinions, but Ben Zayma says in Talmud, he's the one that says that Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is the most important. Ben Zayma was actually also the one that it says in Gemara in Chagig Daf Yudal, it says Arba Nichnas L'Pardes, that four personalities, four great luminaries of Klal Yisrael went into the Pardes, went into the most sublime place and a very, very deep place to see all the inexplicable and imponderables and all the most confounding things. And they didn't make it out. The only one that made it alive and basically also not insane was Rabbi Kiva. Everybody else, they were affected by it very, very deeply.
One of them was Acher.
Yeah, right. But Ben Zayma was another one. So Machlekes Rishonim, whether he died from that or he became insane from it. This is Machlekes. We're not 100% certain. which of the ones is the case, but according to the opinion that he died, it makes mistaber because it means that he died young and he didn't have a chance to attain, even though he was a genius and very precocious and very scholastic. He was a huge Talmid Chacham, but he didn't have a chance to attain smicha, and that's why he was never known as Rebbe. He's known as Shimon ben Zoyma. There's also a very fascinating Gemara in Saita Daf Mem Tes, where it says, Mishemes ben Zoyma, when ben Zoyma died, Batla Darsha, he was considered to be the greatest darshan. He was able to extrapolate from the psukim and really to be able to make the right deductions and inferences from the psukim to explain Torah Sheba'al Peh. That was his forte. And so again, even though he was very young and youthful, he was a legend in Klal Yisrael, a huge Talmid Chacham and a huge Gadol. And then finally, Ben Zoyma was known, probably, I guess, most well known for what he says in Pirkei Avos, in Perek Dal and Pirkei Avos. Ezo Chacham, Ezo Gibor, Ezo Ashir, Ezo Ashir, Asamech B'chalko, Ezo Gibor, Kovish Yitzroy. This is all Ben Zoyma. So Ben Zoyma was not only a great scholar, but he was also he was a philosopher, but not only a great philosopher, he was great into Musar, where he taught Klal Yisrael the priorities. Now, what's interesting is that, let's go weiter in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, "V'chachamim oimrim yimei chayecha ilam hazeh," that yimei chayecha, the days of your life, refer to this world. Kol yimei chayecha l'havi l'mois Mashiach, but all the days of your life, the kol is redundant. So what does it mean? It means it's referring to the time of Mashiach. It's referring to the days of Mashiach. That there's going to be a chiyuv to say Yitzias Mitzrayim Ba'leilos. Not Ba'leilos, I'm sorry, rather there's going to be, that's Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. He says that the kol means that you have to say the Yitzias Mitzrayim Ba'leilos. That's what we learn out from kol. And the Chachamim say, what do we learn out from kol? That even in the time of Mashiach, you're going to have to speak about Yemois Mashiach. You have to speak about, Yitzias Mitzrayim. Now, what does Ben Zoyma hold? Ben Zoyma, l'chara, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, is quoting basically from Ben Zoyma. So it means that Ben Zoyma holds that the mitzvah, what do you learn out from Kol Yemei Chayecha? No, you learn out from Kol Yemei Chayecha. Kol, you learn out Leilos.
Yeah.
That means that you have to say Yitzias Mitzrayim at night. You have to talk about the fact that we went out of Egypt at night. Every night we say Kriya Shema. You daven Marav, you say Kriya Shema. You go to bed, you say the 3 parts of Kriya Shema. You speak about Yitzias Mitzrayim every single night. But what about the times of Mashiach? What would Ben Zoyma hold about Yemois Mashiach? In Yemois Mashiach, let's say Mashiach comes tomorrow, B'ez Hashem, right before Yechasno, he's going to come, right? Maybe he's going to come on Sunday at Yechasno, who knows? So one second,
that'd be nice.
It's all right. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, don't worry, it's good.
3 p.m. Man.
So on Sunday Mashiach comes. Sunday night, you're going to have to say Kriya Shema. Do you have to say Yitzias Mitzrayim? So one second. Chachamim say you have to say Yitzias Mitzrayim in the times of Mashiach. Ben Zoyma, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, doesn't say that. He says that kol means Ba'leilos. So la'afuke, to exclude Yemois Mashiach, why wouldn't you have to say Yitzias Mitzrayim by Yemois Mashiach? The Gemara says first, look at the Gemara, famous Gemara over here. Hine yamim ba'imenu Hashem, right? Tanya, the Brisa says, Amlem ben Zoyma l'chachamim in the Gemara now. That Ben Zoyma said to Chachamim, v'chimas kir Yitzias Mitzrayim l'Yemois Mashiach, are we going to have to say Yitzias Mitzrayim in the time of Mashiach? Haloik Farnema is a famous pasuk in Yirmiyah Navi, Hine yamim ba'imenu Hashem. The days are coming, so signs God. They're not going to say anymore, praised is the God who took it out of Egypt. But praiseworthy is God who took the Jewish people out of their exile, out of the northern countries, out of North America, out of exile, 21st century exile. They're not going to talk about Mitzrayim anymore because the miracles of Yemois Mashiach are going to surpass and supersede and eclipse the miracles of Mitzrayim. This is the Gemara saying. So one second. So the end for the Gemara answers a few words. Amrulai, loy shetekar Yitzias Mitzrayim in Mekayban. Nah, chas v'shalom. Yitzias Mitzrayim is never going to be uprooted because the Torah is nitzchias. Do you think the Torah is going to change? The Torah is going to change. We're not going to have Yitzias Mitzrayim anymore. The Torah is eternal. The Torah is irreplaceable. The Torah is basically immutable. You can't change the Torah. So it means that although the Yemos Mashiach will outshine with grandeur and be so spectacular that it will make Yetzias Mitzrayim look almost, I guess, secondary or tertiary, but it will still be El Shtei Shiba Malchus Iker. The fact that the Malchus, the governments that had their dominion over us, are now imploded, and now the subjugation that we experience is no longer, because we're only going to be under Hashem's sovereign reign, no other nations. Yetzias Mitzrayim Tofel, Yetzias Mitzrayim will be Tofel. Okay. Now, it happens to be that's not so pashut, because the Even Ezel, who was, of course, the Heilige Tzaddik Rav Isser Zalman Meltzer, who was Rav Aaron Cutler's father-in-law, the Rosh Yeshiva of Lakewood, BMG, right, from Kletsk. Rav Aaron Cutler's father-in-law was Rav Isser Zalman. As a matter of fact, they say about Rav Isser Zalman that one time his grandson, Rav Schneier, came to visit him, and he didn't give, Rav Schneier the same affection that he usually gave him, because he was escorting him out. And he said, "Who's watching me with my grandson?" There's all the Holocaust survivors. He says, they don't have their grandchildren. They were all killed in the Holocaust by the Nazis. So I was fortunate, I was blessed. He says he was sensitive to the needs, imagine, of the Holocaust survivors, that they don't have grandchildren. He has a grandson. That was Rav Isser Zalman. So Rav Isser Zalman says that Ben Zayma is maskim, that B'Yemos HaMashiach, he's not excluding the Kol Yemei Chayecha and saying that Yemos Mashiach, he won't talk about Yetzias Mitzrayim anymore. There will not be a chiyuv of the third parsha Kriya Shema B'Leila. He says that it's not going to be batil. He says, but this is what the Lashon uses. El mitzvah tichlol shar haguulos. He says the mitzvah of Yetzias Mitzrayim encompasses also the other redemptions and the other salvation that we experience. He says like this. He says a fascinating chiddush that Yetzias Mitzrayim, the ikra mitzvah of talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim that we got out of Egypt, is a template. It's a blueprint for all other facets of our existence to give us a chizuk for emunah. And therefore, any time that we experience redemption, any time that we experience a miracle, it's rooted in the Yetzias Mitzrayim. You hear this? It's rooted in Yetzias Mitzrayim. And therefore, you still have the mitzvah Yetzias Mitzrayim in the time of Mashiach, according to Ben Zayman. It's interesting because the Reb Cheskel Abramsky points out, though, that the Rambam, in his Minyan HaMitzvahs, where he counts all the 613 mitzvahs, he doesn't include this as a mitzvah of talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim, Baleilos. Why? Mashmos is that the Rambam paskin like Ben Zayma, and therefore not like the Chachamim, and therefore there wouldn't be a mitzvah. Rabbi Cheskel Abramsky says, Lav Dafka, he says, but the Rambam is only talking about mitzvahs that are applicable in contemporary society, in our time. And since Yemos HaMashiach, it wouldn't apply, because Yemos HaMashiach, we're going to have to be thinking about the even more spectacular redemption, and therefore it wouldn't apply. But that, it's just a fascinating, shtickle over here that most people don't pay attention to. But are we going to be speaking of Yemos HaMashiach? What's the mitzvah of Yetzias Mitzrayim? How much of a mitzvah will we have of talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim? Now, if we go a little... you go to Daf Yud Beis Amud Beis, go to the third line. On the top there, the top of the same Amud, go to the third line. That's actually the second line. The second line, after the two dots, on Yud Beis Amud Beis. Omer Rabba Bar Chineno Saba Mishmei Rav. Okay, so Rabba Bar Chineno Saba says in the name of Rav, Kol Hashana Kula, in the entire year, Odem Espalel Hakel HaKadosh, Melech Oiv Tzedak Mishpat. Okay, so with the third bracha of Shemona Esrei and the 11th bracha of Shemona Esrei. The third bracha is Hakel HaKadosh, At HaKadosh Shishach HaKadosh, and the 11th bracha is Hashiva Shavtein Kvar Shanav Yotzin Chatfil. Rabban Shalom should restore our judges, our justice system, Bezdin, and it ends. Right? How does it end? Melech Oyev Tzedakah Mishpat. Rabban Shalom is Melech Oyev Tzedakah Mishpat. Rabban Shalom is the king who loves Tzedakah Mishpat, righteousness and dispensing law. However, Sidmar says like this: Kol Hashana Kula, the entire year. Adam Espal Halel Kadosh Melech Tzedakah Mishpat. The Shemona Esrei, third and 11th brachos, he says Hakel Kadosh. He says Melech Tzedakah Mishpat. Chutz me'asar Yomim shebein Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippur, except for the 11 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, that we changed the nusach, and we say Hamelech HaKadosh v'Hamelech HaMishpat instead. We end off, instead of saying Hakel HaKadosh, we say Hamelech HaKadosh. Because we're speaking about Malchus. We'll be proclaiming the Rebbeinu Shalom as the king, as the royal king over us. And therefore you change Hamelech Oiv Tzedek Mishpat to Hamelech HaMishpat. Okay. So now the Gemara says, for Rabbi Lazar Amar, if you look further in the Gemara, Rabbi Lazar Amar, Afilu Amar El HaKadosh, even if you say El HaKadosh, Yotza, you're still Yotza, even during the Aseret Semei Tshuva, when you're supposed to change the Nusach. Why? Shneimar, because the Pasuk Yeshai says, V'yikba Hashem tzavakos b'mishpat, v'hakel HaKadosh nikdash b'tzedakah. The Rebbeinu Shalom, V'yikba Hashem tzavakos b'mishpat, the Rebbeinu Shalom raised tzavakos b'mishpat, v'hakel HaKadosh, and the holy Hashem, nikdash b'tzedakah, is sanctified through righteousness. Eimasav Yikba Hashem tzavakos b'mishpat, Elu Asar Yomim Shemer Shoshana Yom Kippur. When this Rebbeinu Shalom raised in Mishpat, these are the days, the 10 days Aseret Semei Tshuva between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And V'ka'amar Hakel HaKadosh, and yet you see the pasuk says Hakel HaKadosh. Alright, so you see, often a raya, open proof that you say even during the Aseret Semei Tshuva, saying Hakel HaKadosh and not Hamelech HaKadosh. It's a pasuk. My Havi Allah. So what's the verdict? So the Gemara says that's my Havila means like what's the verdict? Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef answers Hakel HaKadosh Melech Oiv Tzedek Mishpat. So Rav Yosef says okay, we stay with the traditional and conventional Hakel HaKadosh Melech Oiv Tzedek Mishpat. It's fine. Rabba, remember Rabbi Yosef in the Gemara, Klal in the Gemara that this is Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yosef the Heilige Rabbi Yosef and Rabba Bar Nachmani. They were best friends, but they were always arguing. Always the Machlekes Gemara is Rabba and Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef was known as Sinai. He was known as the one that knew Kol HaTorah Kula, who was proficient and fluent in all of the Torah. And Rabba was known as Okeh Horim. He was one that could uproot mountains. He had incisive dialectic, he had tremendous knowledge, and he had great logic and aptitude. And he was able to go ahead and slug up everything, and he was able to really cause a great commotion in halacha. So the question is when they were both eligible to become the next Rosh Hashiva, the great head of Pumbedisa, and the big machlokes was who should get it? Should Sinai get it or Okeh Horim get it? So it was a big tumult. Who should get it? Rabbi Yosef deferred to Rabba. It was very, very beautiful. It showed his humility. But this is Rabba, the famous Rabba and Rabbi Yosef. When both of them died, by the way, there was a great tumult in the Shemayim, and nature, there was inclement nature. Nature mamash changed. There were winds. It was amazing. The nature had the effect of their deaths, both of them. They didn't die at the same times. So Rabbi Yosef says, you say Hakel HaKadosh Melech, even though Aseret Semei Tshuva, if you said it, it's fine. You don't have to say Hamelech HaKadosh, you don't have to say Hamelech HaMishpat. Rabba argues. Rabba says Hamelech HaKadosh, Hamelech HaMishpat. Rabba says you have to change the liturgy, you have to change the Nusach, and Aseret Semei Tshuva, instead of saying Hakel HaKadosh, you have to say Hamelech HaKadosh, instead of saying Melech Oiv Tzedek Mishpat, say Hamelech HaMishpat. The Hilchus of Rabba, and he says the halacha is like Rabba. Now, what does that mean, the halacha is like Rabba? So what does it mean? Lichatchila, that means in the Nusach HaTfila, you have to change it to Hamelech HaKadosh, Hamelech HaMishpat. But let's say b'diavad. Let's say you didn't do it. But afilu b'diavad, you're not yotzei. So that's the answer is the Gaonim, the Rif, the Ramban, and the Rashba all hold that b'diavad you're not yotzei. It means you would have to repeat. You'd have to repeat the Shemona Esrei. You have to repeat the Shemona Esrei. That's what they hold. The MS is that we paskin, because there's a famous Rabbi Yonah that most people are not familiar with, the attribution that's Rabbi Yonah. Rabbi Yonah says that Hakel HaKadosh, it's taka, you're not b'diavad yotzei if you don't say Hamelech HaKadosh. He says, but Hamelech HaMishpat, since you say Hamelech Oiv Tzedek Mishpat, says Rabbi Yonah says, since you said the Melech, the Vort Melech, you said the Sprach, you said the phraseology Melech, even though you said Oiv Tzedek, you didn't change the entire Nusach, but you stuck in Melech. It's Eichel good. It's okay, he says. It's not a problem. That's Rabbi Yonah. And therefore the Ramah paskins like Rabbi Yonah that it's okay. But the Eved, if you said Hamelech Oiv Tzedek Mishpat, it's okay. That's how the Ramah paskins. But the Shulchan Aruch is chaylik. The Shulchan Aruch seems to say, he seems to paskin that you have to say Hamelech HaMishpat. And even with the Eved then, you're not yotzei if you don't say Hamelech Mishpat. So Svarim, it's more machmir, it's more chamerdik. Now how does Svarim come out? Lamaisa, it's not so pasha because the Kaf HaChaim paskins that you don't have to go back. He holds that when it says that b'diavad, you're not Yotzei, that's only referring to a Melech HaKadosh, but not to a Melech HaYistek Mishpat. So you would be Yotzei if you say a Melech HaYistek Mishpat, according to Chav Chaim, the Yabi Aimer, Ravad Yosef, he says no. He says like the Shulchan Aruch, Keneged Ramah, that you would not be Yotzei at all. And therefore, L'chara, according to him, you'd have to go back for Melech HaKadosh and for Melech HaMishpat. Okay, let's go weiter. Now we're going to, the next stuff we're going to is, everybody please hold cup. We're going to make sure it's a safe, okay. We're on Yud Aleph from the Beis. Yud Aleph from the Beis. Everybody get Yud Aleph from the Beis. Yud Aleph from the Beis. My Mevarich. It's in the middle of the daf, after the word Pirkin. Okay, does everybody have it? It's around 20 lines down, after the word Pirkin. Frag the Gemara, Akasha. Pirkin, everybody have it?
No.
Be able to yell?
Yeah.
Okay. Reb Sam, yeah. It's around 20 lines down. Page 22. I don't know if they have the same source of daf over there.
Pirkin B'Safra.
There's a dot there, right after Pirkin, right here. My.
My.
Got it? Yeah. Okay, so Frag the Gemara, Akasha. My Mevarich is referring to Birchas HaTorah. My Mevarich, how do you make a Birchas HaTorah? So by the way, every morning before we eat, the same way before we eat food, food's delicious, we make a bracha. When we learn Torah, Torah's delicious, we make a bracha on Torah in order to eat it, in order to consume and devour the Torah. Torah's delicious. Torah keeps us K'hem Chayim. Torah's our life. Loi al lechem levad yichya adam. Torah says, not by bread alone. You don't just live on sushi or chicken. Ki al kol moitzi pi Hashem. You live on the Spirit of God. The Torah is what animates us. The Torah is what keeps us alive. You see, the people that survived the Holocaust are very firm people. They didn't have any food. They were scavengers. They would try to look in the refuse cans for it. But what kept them alive? It's their emunah. It's their Torah learning that kept them alive. It can keep you alive in the hardest of times. Your Torah learning, the faith you have. So this is what he says. My Mevarich, what's a bracha you make? Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Shmuel. Asher Kedushanim B'Mitzvah Sivanu Lasek B'Devisora. Asher Kedushanim B'Mitzvah Sivanu. The Rebbe Shalom commanded us with his mitzvah of Tzivanu. He commanded us Lasek B'Devisora to engage in words of Torah. Rabbi Yochanan Messiah Behachi Harav Na Hashem Elokeinu Estivrei Yisrael Rabbi Shalom, make it sweet. Estivrei Yisrael Lefinu, the words of Torah in our mouths of Fiyas Amcha B'Yisrael, in the mouths of all Klal Yisrael. V'yanachnu us v'tzatzeinu, and our offspring, our descendants v'tzei Amcha B'Yisrael, and the progeny of all Klal Yisrael. K'lo yoydi shemech v'yisku Yisrael Secha. Baruch atah Hashem Alam Yitera Lama Yisrael. V'Rav Hamnuna Amar Shabacha Banu Mikolam V'Nasal Nastorah. Baruch atah Hashem Naisei Torah. Anybody want to know where you got the Birchas Torah from? It's not contrived. It wasn't innovated, centuries ago. This comes from the Gemara. The Birchas Torah Mamash comes from the Gemara. This is what we say every single day. So this is what he says. And he says, Omrav Hamnuna Zihi Mu'ula Shababrachas. This is the better of all the brachas. The bracha banu mikol amar nasal Torah soy. That's the bracha Hashem Noisei Torah. The Taz points out that it says Noisei Torah. Thank you Hashem Noisei Torah, who's giving the Torah. What do you mean? The Torah was given in the year 2448, talking about 3,300 some odd years ago. So he said no, the Torah has always been given. Noisei Torah. So the Gemara says Hilkach lemernu kulu. Therefore we should say all the brachas. That's why, based on this Gemara, that's why we say Lasik with the Versara, Harevna and Ashabachabano, because the Gemara ends off before the two dots. Hilkach lemrenu klukulu, you should say it all, and that's why we say it all. However, if we go back to where we started, My Mevarich, by the dot after Pirkin, it says Amrav Yidam Shmuel, Asher Kasham says, well, Lasik, remember where we started off? Lasik the Versara. So we say Lasik the Versara, but the Girsa of the Rif, if you see the Rabbi Kiva Eger, you see there's a circle over there that's pointing to Gilyon Ashas, and the Rabbi Kiva Eger points out that the Rif's Girsa was not Lasik the Versara. It was Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu V'Chalam Asher Kasham Sesvanu Al Divrei Sorah, not Lasik B'Divrei Sorah. And therefore, the Rambam has the same girsa as the Rif, as does the Tur and Avu Jarham. They all have that girsa. Al Divrei Sorah, not Lasik B'Divrei Sorah. That's a Sfardim. They don't say Lasik B'Divrei Sorah. They say Al Divrei Sorah. Our girsa. The reason why the Avu Jarham says that they say Al Divrei Sorah, not Lasik B'Divrei Sorah, because Al Divrei Sorah incorporates and encompasses not only the learning Torah, but also putting the Torah into practice. We say Lasik Divisor, the Taz explains, the reason why we say Lasik Divisor is because our ganze Chiyus, our ganze Leben, our whole life, our whole day is dominated by the Torah. No matter if you're not sitting and learning, but if you're working, whatever you're doing, you're a Torah ingrained personality. Whatever you're doing, you're supposed to B'chol Derechacha De'eyu. You're supposed to acknowledge your Baruch with everything you're doing. Anything you're doing, you're supposed to be a holy Jew. You're supposed to have their Baruch in your mind and say, I'm here to be Mekadeshim Shmayim. I'm here to be Mekadeshim Tzaitzis. I'm here to sanctify the sparks. That's Lasik V'Dersara. The other Acharonim explain Lasik V'Dersara means that the Torah, Asik means a business. The Torah has to be like a business. The same way you focus on your business and you're consumed by your business, when you learn Torah, you have to shut out everything else. Adam ki yamas ba'oil, stated in the Torah. That like a person is dead in the oil. Zois chukas Torah. The law of the Torah is if you want to be a Torah Jew and you want to succeed in Torah, you have to learn Adam ki yamas ba'oil. You have to be like you're dead. What does it mean like you're dead? The famous story about Herschel Astropoli, right? He was a famous comedian, famous Nebuch, poor man that used to go Mashulach begging all over the place. So one time he went to somebody's house in another city and they said, where are you from? So he says, I'm from Minsk. He made up, he's from Minsk. He said, oh, you're from Minsk? Do you know my uncle? He says, yeah, I know your uncle. How is he? He's dead. You know my aunt? How is she? She's dead. You know my cousin? He's dead. You know my brother? He's dead. Yeah, so the lady is giving him the food. She's Nebuch sitting there. She's all tzebrochen. She's falloren. She's like Nebuch. She says, I don't understand, Herschel. Everyone in my family's dead. He says, listen, when I'm eating, everyone's dead. They weren't dead. When he's eating, everyone's dead. When you learn Torah, Adam ki yadav aspi oil. Right? There's the Chazal say, Adam ki yadav. When you're learning Torah, everything you're doing business. If you're in the middle of a deal, you let somebody interrupt you? You're not going to let somebody interrupt you unless there's a better deal. We learn Torah. How can you let somebody interrupt you? Turn off the phone. You have to, every excuse you have to shut out. So listen. So it comes out that there's machlokes between the Rif and the Rambam and the Torah and the Avudram versus our Girsa, Lasik or Al Divrei Torah. But Bichlal is Birchas HaTorah that the Gemara says here that you have to make a blessing on Torah. Who says you have to make a blessing on Torah? The rabbi said it, the Rabbanan, or is that Midivrei Torah? Is that Midaraisa? Oh, not so posh. The Mishnah Berurah paskins that it's a deraisa. However, and the emphasis of Mishnah Berurah is possibly based on the Ramban, the Rashba, and the Sefer Chinuch. They all say that the Rebbe Shalom mitzvah us to make a bracha before we learn Torah, Birchas HaTorah. However, the other Rishonim and the Rif, the Rambam, and the Rosh, the three Aishas, Rif, Rambam, and Rosh, they hold that the Torah, the Rebbe Shalom didn't tell you to make a bracha on Torah. The rabbis, the Rabbanon say you have to make a bracha on Torah. So again, some machlokes between the Ramban, the Rashba, and the Sefer Chinuch versus the Rif, the Rambam, and the Rosh. Okay, so how do we come out Lamarsa? The emphasis we pass like the Mishnah Berurah that Birchas Torah is the Raisa. That means if you don't remember if you said Birchas Torah in the morning, let's say you had a very busy morning, or let's say Baruch Hashem, a guy told me that he had a baby in the morning, and he wasn't sure. Because everything was so frantic and hectic, so he wasn't sure if he made the Birchas Torah in the morning. He was running with his wife to the hospital and everything. So what do you do in such a case? Okay, so if you're holding by davening, then you buy the Havarabo or Havasolim, whichever gears you say. That could also be fulfill your obligation by saying Havarabo before Shema. Can fulfill your obligation for Birchas Torah. But a person should learn afterwards. The Shema, according to some shittas, you might say learning Torah by saying Shema. We say that no, after Shemon Esrei, although if you're saying Tachnun, if you're not in a Hasidic Shemin, you actually say Tachnun, which is just run after saying Tachnun, it's a big segula, but then most boys can say that you shouldn't, Tachnun has to be said right after Shemon Esrei, not to make a hefsek. So don't learn Torah after Shemon Esrei, learn Torah after Tachnun before you say Ashrei, then learn Torah. But let's say you didn't have in Zin, you didn't have in mind, Ba'av Rabbah, you're going to be fulfill your mitzvah of Birchas Torah. Now you're stuck. So what do? You should have somebody moitzi you, have somebody that didn't say Birchas Torah yet be moitzi you. And if you can't find anybody to invite you, then you have to say the Birchas Torah again. So what do you say? Says the Shagas Aryeh. And I think it's based on this Gemara, because the Gemara says, Amrav Hamnuna, Zihu Me'ula Shebebrachos. What's the Me'ula Shebebrachos? Ashabach Hamani Mikol Amim. So the Shagas Aryeh says that since, anyhow, there's usually a Yesod, a foundation called, a fundamental rule called Safek Brachos Lahakel. When it comes to Bracha, we're usually more Mekel, saying Shemus Hashem. Therefore, you don't have to say all the Brachos of Birchas Torah. You should only say one, and which one should you say? Ashabach Hamani. So if it's in the case, case where you weren't sure if you said it or not, then what do? You say Asher Bacha Bonim Mikolamim Leite Lefi L'Shargasari. That's what we do. Okay, let's go weiter. Now, let's go to Yud Amud Beis. We're making our way back. Remember, Yud Amud Beis, the third wide line, second to last word. Yud Amud Beis.
Which line?
Oh, 1 second. I'm sorry. So it's third line. It's a little confusing here. It's around, I'd say, 20 lines from the top. Okay. But Timer L, everybody got it?
No.
Okay, the very wide line. Third very wide line on Yud Amud Beis. The second to last word. Vatimer El.
Yeah, I got Tomer Isha Hinei.
Vatimer Elisha. It's a pasuk from Shmuel Aleph, right? That the Elisha Navi. Elisha was the prime Talmud of Eliyahu Navi. The same Eliyahu Navi had certain journeys and travels and fascinating miracles happened to him, so too by Elisha. So he went to visit the Isha Shinamis, and the pasuk says, "Vatimer El Isha." Now here there's a mapik hey in the hey. Isha goes, "Vatimer El Isha" would be, and she said to her, right? Isha, it's Isha. Well, it should be her husband, right? Ish, her man, means her husband, right? Okay, so she said to her husband, "Hinena yadati ki Isha Elokim kadashu." Our guest, now I know, I am very, very certain and confident that our guest is a very holy man. Ish kadashu, right? So Amar Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina, mikan she'isha makeres baruch Yosef min ish. From here we see that a woman is more privy, a woman is more cognizant, a woman is more aware of the domestic. Whatever transpires domestically in the house, and she knows more about the guests than the man does. Well, obviously because she's more present in the house, but also she has her bini yasera, and therefore she says, "I know about this man's holiness. I know things that you're not aware of." Kadishu mina yada. So I'm sorry. So how does she know that he was holy? Mina yada. From where did she know? Rav Shmuel. It's machlekes between Rav Shmuel. That's what the tradition was of how she knew he was holy. Chadamar, presumably Rav says, she never saw a flea, a gnat, a mosquito. Right? Again, they lived in very rustic and rural areas back then. They didn't have the conventional type of engineering and infrastructure at all, and they had more exposure to the elements and to the creatures. And she says, "I never saw a mosquito. I never saw anything ever show up in his confines. It's amazing." So she said there's something very special about him. That's Rav's opinion. The other opinion is presumably Shmuel. Southern Shal Pishna Hatzia, that she spread the linens for him on his bed, al mitas on his bed, v'lerasa carry a love, and she never saw. She always changed his linen. She never saw there was any admission over there. He always had a pure mind, and the Rishonim speak out that he traveled a lot, and it causes exertion. Exertion causes the person physiologically to have maybe an admission. He never had anything. He was always pure. He never had shichva zera levatala. He always was thinking of purity. He was a holy man. You can imagine the housekeepers, the maids in the hotels, what they have to see. Oy shreklach, right? Terrible. But she's saying, I only see holy things. So Rav and Shmuel. It's interesting because Rav's opinion is that, how did she know he was holy? Because she never saw any zvuv, right? They say about Rav Zalman Volozhiner, that a guy came to him, a guy complained to Rav Zalman Volozhiner that he had an infestation of gnats and fleas and things, and he said, "Oh, bazoi," it means Rabbi Shalom was not happy. The Medrash Bereshis Rabbah says a person that Rabbi Shalom was happy with doesn't have an infestation of these types of things. As a matter of fact, Rav Moshe, they were made about Rav Moshe Feinstein. Right? He wasn't from the time of Elisha, thousands of years ago. He's talking about somebody he passed away in 1986. All right, 1986. Say about Rav Moshe that when he went to the summer in the country, and anybody remembers, let's say, certain camps. I'm not going to mention the camps' names, but they were notorious for having flies all over. And Rav Moshe would sit outside the bungalow colony, and they were made that they never had mosquitoes next to Rav Moshe. Same thing for Elisha. And there's this another story about Rav Shraga Feiv Mendelovich, the famous pioneering Menayel founder of Torvadas. Rav Shraga Feivel was learning in Spring Valley. Spring Valley is upstate. Again, it's a place that's subject to a lot of gnats and fleas, mosquitoes, whatever you want to call it. and the Bachrim were all being attacked by swarms, and they realized that there's one person that didn't need any insect repellent. He's sitting there totally immune and innocuous, and they were in a spoil. And then he read for them later on a Likutei Moharan that explains it. But that says Farish Gemara. I'm sure he knew the Gemara. I'm sure he said the Gemara also. But Farish Gemara, that somebody's kaddish, somebody's pure. He doesn't get the marachem v'tchitchem. The fear and the dread of any animal is upon. It doesn't only apply to a bear or to a lion. It applies to these things too. Maritik, hafi v'fella. Can you imagine when a person is a kaddish, when a person is a Talmud Chacham, when a person is somebody that is shikua, is submerged and entrenched with Torah, and he only has purity in his mind, nothing bothers him. These things can't bog him down. Okay, let's go weiter. Next, on Daf Yud. I'm going to tell you the exact source over here. It's Daf Yud. It's the fourth line on Daf Yud. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hani, Daf Yud, page.
I'm in Bay.
I'm an Aleph. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Ahmed Aleph, you said?
Daf Yud, I'm an Aleph.
Okay, this is Daf Yud.
Hanu Biryoni. Everybody got it?
No.
These Biryoni.
Fifth line, fourth line.
Some Rishonim say that Biryoni comes from word bor. Bor meaning ignoramus. It means that these people were tormentors. They were antagonists. They were bad people. They were also amaratzim. They were bores. Tahavu b'shivusei Rameir. They lived in the neighborhood of Rameir of Avi Kumitzaroi, and they tormented him. They afflicted him. They antagonized him. Tuva a lot. Rameir Rachmi Alai Rabban Shalom. Rameir prayed to Rabban Shalom Rachmi for Rachmanas on them, but it's a very big pillow. What does it mean that he prayed mercy on them? He asked Rabban Shalom to kill them. He said Rabban Shalom that they should die. So Rachmi Alai. So it's a big machlekes Rishonim. Some Rishonim want to say that the biggest Rachmanas is that if they're sinners, that they should be taken away now before they become even more sinners. So that's the biggest Rachmanas you can have. Other Rishonim say that if they die now, then they'll get less Olam Haba. So, give them whatever if they die now, then they'll get more Olam Haba and they'll get less Olam Haza, so it's better for their neshamas. Like sometimes we wonder why people are taken away early, why people have a premature demise. It seems to us to be premature. We don't know the Cheshbonos for Baruch Shalom. We don't know. Maybe the Baruch Shalom is protecting the person has a special schus, and the Baruch Shalom saw that this person can go ahead and do a shreklucha aveira, a terrible sin, and therefore the Baruch Shalom is preventing that person from sinning by taking them away now. Or maybe the Baruch Shalom says, if I let them live, then they'll have a very short change to Olam Haba. And they'll be in the lobby, they'll be in the vestibule of this world, which is just the breeding ground, just the experiment. But in the real world, they're going to have nothing. They're going to be denied. They're never going to get their raise. They're never going to really experience the true reveling and pleasure. Therefore, I better take them now. So that's why sometimes we don't stand the cheshbon for Baruch Shalom. Somebody came to me on just this past Sunday. Says 30-year-old friend, 30 years old, died of brain cancer, and they comes from a multi-billionaire family worth $6 billion. And he said that that you can't buy health. They couldn't buy. They took him for experimental treatments. But that's the commodity. The greatest commodity is health. Not something we should. Every day with the healthy Baruch Hashem, we can breathe. Kol neshama ta'alakol. Kol neshima v'neshima. Every breath we take, say thank you, Eibishter. Thank you, Hashem. So So this machlekes. What does it mean? Rachma alayu kihechet d'lemusu. But he died. He asked the kihechet d'lemusu that they should die. Amrale Bruria Dibisu, says his wife. Dibisu means his household, really. Literally means house. It means your wife is your house. All right? So sometimes the wives, they'll make sure that to remind you of that they are, it depends. But anyhow, Bruria was a very, very outspoken woman. She was a tough, spouse to have because she was a very, very, very brilliant lady. It's funny because one of they say that if a guy can't get into Brisk, the second place he tries to get into is BJJ. BJJ is the girls' seminary, So if you can't get into Brisk, get BJJ, because BJJ is supposed to be
Bruria's daughter.
Bruria. So Rav Yonis and Dave, it's Rav Hutner's daughter is the Menaheles, so the Rosh Hashiva, whatever she's the head of the seminary. So her name is Rebbetzin Bruria. So Rav Hutner knew what he's doing. He called his daughter Bruria. They say she's a Kanai, she's a Jew. Say she wrote the Pachad Yitzchok, So Bruria is not a common name, but a very illustrious, her husband's a big Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Yitzchok David. Anyhow, so Bruria, though, she was very outspoken. She was Rameir's wife. She was the daughter of Chananya Betradim. study about Reb Chanan Batradin, a lot of amazing stories. I said, listen, we Yidden, we don't need to go to Chasr L'Havdil El Fadals. We don't need these books or movies. Read the Gemara has plenty of drama in it, and read about Reb Chanan Batradin. And Rameir, this is Rameir Balanes, the same Rameir, this is Rameir Balanes. So he was very, very distraught. And he was Nebuch, like almost devastated that these people were harassing him. They were harassing him.
They were Jewish?
Seemingly, yes, they were Jewish, yeah. The Rishonim seem to say that they were Jewish, yeah. So his wife says to him, 1 second, my daitcha. What are you doing? You're praying that they should die? Mishum Tesiv, the Torah says, it's a famous pasuk, Yitamu Chatoim, right? That the Chatoim, the sins, should be eradicated. It should be cut off. Yitamu from the word Tam, right? In Rosh Hashanah, when we have the Simonim, right? So we say that Tamar, we have a date because Tamar is from the word Tam, right? To cut off, to eradicate, to obliterate, whatever that. Yitamu, we say that Yitamu Avenu Malshina, our enemies and our tormentors should be cut off, yeah? Yitamu Chatoim, so the sin should be cut off. Miksiv Chaitim, does it say the sinners should die? Chatoim Ksiv. It says that the sin should be cut off. I said, then she goes weiter, but she's trying to prove that the Torah never says that sinners should die. It says their sin should die. So what does she say? Ella, if you go to the next line there, a few words from the end of the line. Ella boy rachmi alu lahadri b'tshuva. Rather, Ella, by the little circle over there, Ella boy rachmi, you should ask Rachmanis, ask Rebbeinu Shalom, that lahadri b'tshuva, that they should do tshuva. Or Risham aidenim, then they will not be Risham anymore. By the way, Abraham Lincoln, the famous Civil War between the North and the South, the Confederate States were the South, right? And so they say that Abraham Lincoln was being overly benevolent to the South. And they couldn't understand it. How do you understand this? So Lincoln responded. He said, famous words. He said, do you not think that I could destroy my enemies by converting them into friends? Listen, you don't have to destroy enemies by killing them physically, by maiming them mortally. But you make them into friends. They're not enemies anymore. All right? I had it today. I was by the post office, and I needed to be served. And the guy's giving me a tray, the post office clerk, saying that he can't do this, he can't do that, he's time constrained, and there was nobody there. It was just, so I smiled at him, and I told him, he's so wonderful. And then 10 minutes later, he says, whatever you need, I'll do. I made the enemy. Already it's funny, somebody next to me is saying, he's an anti-Semite. I don't think he was anti-Semite. I really don't think so. I don't think he was anti-Semite. I think he's just, a frustrated civil employee, I don't think he's anybody. But anyhow, Yitamu Chatam, Rishama Yideinam. So Lincoln said, right? So he said, very good. Rosh Chodesh, we say it, right? Every Chodesh. But anyway, so he's saying that you don't have to destroy enemies by assaulting them or by killing them. You make them into friends. You don't know enemies. Where did Lincoln get this from? He got it from Bruriah. It had to be. Listen, he's got it from Bruriah. This is Mamash from Ferish from Bruriah. So Bruriah said this. Okay, so the Shiloh is, how do you understand Bruriah's Taina? It says, everything is in the hands of heaven, except for the fear of heaven. It means Rabbi Shalom controls everything about your life, except whether you're going to be a good Jew or not, except you can have faith in God. So if that's the case, if the Rebbeinu Shalom can't control whether you're going to have faith or not, or you're going to be a good Jew, or you're going to go stay on the derech, Chas v'shalom, go off the derech, then how could you pray for somebody? How could a mayor pray for somebody that they do tshuva? I'm going to pray that Yankel does tshuva. Yankel right now is in Amsterdam by the red light district, Chas v'shalom, right? He's about to do who knows what. I'm going to have in mind. I'm going to have special kavanos. I pick up in that bracha because Arizal says that if you have in mind haroisa b'shuva, you have in mind somebody in that bracha, you could accomplish that person does tshuva. That's a special koach of the bracha. But it still doesn't answer the question. So I'm sure you think where did the Chazon Ish in the Hashmatis of Aruch Chaim? You won't believe this Chazon Ish. This is the best kiyur of Chazon Ish. I mean, he has a few good ones, but Gvaldig good ones. Chazon Ish says that there's a din of arvus. There's a din that Kol Yisrael Arim says Rebbeinu Shalom made us into siblings. We're brothers and sisters. We are all one neshama. We're one guf. We're one body. We're one organ. And we are interdependent. We're interrelated. We're indispensable one to the other. We need each other desperately. When one yid does a mitzvah, the other yid gets hana, gets benefit from. When one yid chasham does an aver, we all suffer. There's no such thing as doing an aver in a vacuum. A Jew in Paris who goes ahead as Michal Shabbos, he's bringing the Jew in Brooklyn down. He's causing an avira detuma in Brooklyn. Right? So it says the Chazon Ish, we have harvest with one another. It's so ridiculous what he says. He says, since we have harvest, since we're guarantors, since we're brothers, since we're one neshama, we're one goof, we're one organ. He says, therefore, since I could down for myself to do tshuva, I could down for somebody else to do tshuva. Imagine that. And the Sifsei Chachamim says, he doesn't quote the Sifsei Chachamim, but the Sifsei Chachamim says, Zel Bezach. But the Sifsei Chachamim is mice or something. Listen what he says. He says the same way you could daven for a person, you could pray for a person on behalf of a person, refuah, and they should have refuah saguf, that they should have refuah. And by the way, I forgot to mention that we're learning refuah shlema for Eliezer ben Malko, should have refuah shlema. Unfortunately, he's very sick in the hospital with pneumonia. Should have refuah shlema, and also for Fega. Hova Bas Fredel, she should have refuah shlema, refuah nefesh, refuah saguf. So Sifsei Chachamim says the same way you could daven for a person to have refuah haguf, you could down for a person to have refuah nefesh. The person to have refuah nefesh. That's what he says. So, and the emphasis is that the Milt Tzedakah has a mahalach where he says you could daven for the Rebbeinu Shalom to remove the Yetzer Hara from somebody. You're not telling the person to do tshuva, but you're removing the ikuv. So you're davening that the Yetzer Hara be withdrawn, and that could help the person. This is amazing. Oh, okay, let's go weiter. Now, that's Yud, that's Yud. Let's go further.
If it was a Muslim, you think that would be true about like, a real enemy? Someone
Probably not. Probably only a Yud. Okay, now let's go further. We go to the very bottom of Daf Tes Amud Aleph. We're almost finishing up. Daf Tes Amud Aleph, the very bottom of Daf Tes Amud Aleph. So it says, yeah. Three lines from the bottom of Testament. We're going to go into Testament base also. 3 lines from the bottom of Daf Testament Aleph. That's page 9. The pasuk from Shemois Perek Aleph. Dabra no be'oznei om. Speak, please, in the ears of the people of the nation. Yeah, Dabra no be'oznei om. So the Baruch was telling Moshe Rabbeinu should tell the people. Yeah.
What line?
The 3rd line from the bottom, where the circle is quoting the pasuk. Dabra no be'oznei om. Does anybody remember this pasuk? Where he says, Darberna, please speak in the ears of the nation, telling them that they should borrow clothing from the Egyptians when they're leaving Egypt. Before they leave Egypt, they should get utensils and vessels and garments, articles from the Egyptians, right? Amri, debate Rabbi Yannai, Ein na el lashon akasha. The word na is a lashon of entreaty, beseeching somebody. So why should you say, please ask them? Of course the people want to get articles and from the Egyptians. They didn't have anything. They were living as slaves. It says, that I'm asking you a special favor. Lech, go, and say to the Jewish people, I'm entreating you, please borrow from the Egyptians before you go out of Egypt the utensils, the vessels of silver and the vessels of gold. Next page, Testament base. So that tzaddik shouldn't say that you oppressed them and you tormented them, you subject them to slavery, but yet you didn't fulfill the other part of the promise. What was the other part of the promise? That they'll be liberated and they will go out as free people, full of bounty and full of wealth and riches. So therefore, the Baruch was saying, please, Moshe Rabbeinu, make sure to go ahead and make sure the Jews ask the Egyptians, so this way that tzaddik will not think that I'm disingenuous and that I wasn't being, fallacious when I said that the Jewish people could go out with a bunch of wealth. Who's Oisei a tzaddik? Who's a tzaddik? So if you think about it, 1 second, who's the Torah called tzaddik? The Torah only calls one person tzaddik. Yashi, the Torah only calls one person tzaddik. Who's the Torah called tzaddik?
Noah.
Who?
Noah.
Who does the Gemara call tzaddik? Beferish Gemara? Gemara Baba Basra. No, the Gemara calls Binyamin a tzaddik. Not Binyamin from the sons of Yaakov. He was Binyamin a tzaddik who supported families in tzedakah. Who does the Zohar call tzaddik? The Zohar calls Yosef a tzaddik.
At least that one. Right.
So you see, the Gemara calls someone else a tzaddik. Rashi, that's Avram Avinu. So Avram is called a tzaddik. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Anybody ever ask you who's a tzaddik? Avram Avinu is called a tzaddik. The Gemara calls him a tzaddik. Now, the Gemara says, if you go back to Daf, let's go to Daf Zayin and Beis, page 14.
Page
14.
Zion.
That's right.
On an olive or on the base?
Amud Beis, you got it?
Yeah.
Amud Beis, the top. Amr Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Amr Rabbi Yochanan Shem Rashbi, that's the author of the Zohar, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Miyam Shabar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from the time the Rebbe Shalom created the world, there's nobody that called the God Master, Adon, like we say, Adon Elam Hashem Alach, Adon Elam, Master of the universe, Hashem Alach, who reigned. There's nobody that called the Rebbe Shalom Adon. The first one to call him the Master of the universe was Ad Sheba Avram Avinu, until Avram Avinu came. Avram Avinu was the first one, V'kara Adon, and Avram Avinu called the Rebbe Shalom Adon. Adon Elam Hashem Alach, B'terem Kol, Adon Elam, Master of the universe, Hashem Alach, who reigns, B'terem Kol, before Yitzir Nevrah, anything was created in the universe, right? Adon Elam, so Rebbe Shalom was the Master, he's the Master of the universe. By the way, the Maharal explains, and the other also Achronim point out that the reason why Avram Avinu is credited for calling him Adon, even though the Medrash says Beferish that Adam Arishon called God Adon also, is because even though the pasuk, so some say because the pasuk doesn't say explicitly by Adam Rishon, only says by Avram because the pasuk says that Vayomer Adon, that it brings down pasuk that Avram called Hashem Adon. Others say because Adam Rishon, he had it easy. Did he have parents that were trying to steer him away, pagan parents that were, trying to take him to Times Square and to, and to the movies and everything? No, he had it easy. Avram Avinu, he had it hard. He had to go ahead and go against everybody and recognize that Adonai Olam Hashem Alach, that this world is purpose-driven and that there's a mission in this world. It's not just eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you die, the Epicurean lifestyle. Therefore, he was acknowledged for calling the Rebbeinu Shalom Adon. Others say because he actually went ahead and proclaimed the Rebbeinu Shalom Adon Olam, that the Master of the universe. He went ahead and he was Makar of everybody. He went ahead teaching everybody the truth in the world. He was the first Kiruv Dynamo, the Kiruv expert, and therefore he was attributed and credited to Adon. So first, there's two big things here. The Gemara Bracha is telling us in the Daf. Daf Zayin Beis is telling us that Avram is the first one to call the Rebbeinu Shalom Adon, and therefore we have to think about how we can call the Rebbeinu Shalom Adon Olam, the Master of the universe, the Master of our universe. So we should proclaim every single day. We should think of a way to proclaim the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Master of the universe, to tell the world, no, there is a Hashem, there is a Eibishter. Nothing is by chance. It's not just arbitrary. It's not just that we're survival of the fittest and that there's just an arbitrary creation and universe. No. There's Adon Olam. And the second thing is that Avram Avinu is called by the Rebbeinu Shalom. He is called a tzaddik. He was called the righteous one for many reasons, and the Rebbeinu Shalom didn't want to disappoint the promise that he gave to that tzaddik. Okay, let's go weiter. We're almost finished. This is now very, very deep. Anybody that, by the way, that has to go, please don't feel any obligation to stay. But we're going to finish up with Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. Go back to Zayin Amud Aleph. That was the week began the Daf. And we're going to go to Tanya. There's a famous song that was popularized. Anybody know who sings it? Tanya. Anybody remember? Famous singer. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, around 6 lines from the top. Tanya. 1, 2, 3.
Is it a Chabad?
Yeah.
Oh,
Tanya. Avram Fried, right?
okay.
Tanya, I'm Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha. Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha said, Pamachas nichnasti. You have it? Everybody got it?
No.
Shlomo, you got it? Yomi, you have it? Moshe, you have it?
Mine top?
What? How many lines?
So, here we go.
Oh, Tanya.
Rabbi Shmuel ben Elisha, Pamachas nichnasti lahati k'teretz lefnei fnim. One time I went to burn the incense offering lefnei lefnim in the Kodesh HaKadosh, the holiest place on earth. All the way in the inner sanctum. For Isi, and I saw that Achtriel, Ka Hashem Savakos, the Lord Hashem Savakos of hosts, Shu Yoshev al Kisi Ram Nisu, was sitting on the celestial, on the throne of Amalei, and he said to me, Yishmael b'ni, Yishmael my son, Racheni, give me a bracha, Matiloi. I said to this Akatriel, Yiratzon Fenecha, may be the will, your will, Shich B'shurachamecha es kascha, that you should suppress, your mercy should suppress your anger, you should sublimate your anger, V'yagil Rachamecha al midosecha, and you should reveal your mercy on your attributes, on your traits. You should only have kindness, V'snagi b'necha, and you should conduct yourself with your children, Midas Racham, only with mercy, Rebbe, please have Rachmanis on your children. We're trying so hard. Don't be angry. Please be very, very forbearing and patient with us. And go above and beyond for us. Don't judge us. And this Akatriel, he shook his head. And the Kamashmal we learn from here, that even the blessing of a simpleton, a blessing of a hedyot, an ordinary person should not be disparaged, should not be lining eyes, because if this Akatriel, who says it's Kol Hashem Savakos, accepted a bracha from Rabbi Shmuel. And so who's Akatriel? Is it the Rabban Shalom? Is it a Malach? What is it? It says he's sitting on the celestial throne. He calls him Kol Hashem Savakos. Big Machlaikis, the Chuvas Ka'ainim says it's the name of a Malach. This Gabriel Michal Katriel. As a matter of fact, the Sefer Hasidim says that this Malach Katriel is very, very deep in Kabbalah. There is 1,800 Malachim angels dedicated to listening to the tefillos of people that are sincere from the heart, emotionally, adaman emotionally. And Katriel is the head of all those 1,800 Malachim. That's who he is. Imagine that. And Rabbeinu Nisim Goin also says that it was an angel. His name was Katriel. As a matter of fact, just a few days ago, there's a guy, Katriel, who was not yet affiliated. He came here, and I said, Katriel, what a name. He says, yes, it means the crown of God. And I said, and Rabbi Moshe asked him, do you want to put on tefillin? He said, okay. And we put on tefillin together. It was so beautiful. His name is Katriel. He came almost the day that the daf mentioned Katriel. I thought it's uncanny. It's crazy. He was right there. We're right where you are, Shlomo. He put on tefillin. He was such kavanah. It was so beautiful. And we gave each other such big hugs. And he says, I feel connected. I feel, So Baruch Hashem a million times. I hope he's maybe come to Shir tomorrow night. Maybe come to Mishmar tomorrow night. Can't promise. But so Rabbi Nisim Goin says that Katriel is a malach, but what does it mean? Kol Hashem Savaka is usually only used that for Hashem. So he says that the speech, the mouth, the voice that was Hashem's voice, but the presence was the angel. That's what he says. The Ramak, Ramosha Cardavero, says it has to have been an angel because it says he saw something, and you can't see. The Rabban Shalom is invisible. You can't see. Rabban Shalom could see you, but he can't be seen. So what's interesting is that the Shittim Vetzes, though, and the Or Zarua, they all say that Achatriel is the name of Hashem. It's Hashem himself. But he didn't see him. He didn't see God. He can't see God. He saw the emanation of the glory, the Hod. He saw the radiance of God. But he didn't see God because he can't see Hashem. So he saw the glory, he saw the radiance of Hashem. But then it's referring to Hashem himself. Imagine Rabbi Shmuel gave a bracha to God Almighty, to Rabban Shalom. And Rabban Shalom said, I like it. But we could give a bracha also to Rabban Shalom every single day. We say, Baruch Atah Hashem! Blessed you Hashem. Rabban Shalom needs our bracha? Yeah, he wants our bracha. He says, because he's only a melech if he has subjects, if he has people. He could be God, Kel, but he's not melech. Kel melech gadol v'noyer. Rabban Shalom wants to be a melech. He wants us to make him king. And we can make him king by blessing him. So we say, Baruch Atah Hashem. Say, Baruch Atah Hashem. We say, blessed you Hashem. Baruch Atah Hashem. Imagine that. Give a bracha to the Eibishter. So what's interesting is that the proof of the Shittim Vetzes Or Zarua is that the Gemara says beferish that no one in the Kodesh Kedoshim once a year, only one place on earth, only one person. That's Olam, Shana, and of course Zman, right, in Kabbalah. So one person, one place, one time a year is the Kohen Gadol in the Kodesh Kedoshim on Yom Kippur. No one else is allowed. The Gemara says even Malachim are not allowed. So the Pashtus, it has to be the Akatriel, was God himself. The Baruch himself, that's a proof. You'll ask me, Rabbi Shmuel was a Kohen Gadol in the second base of Mikdash. The Gemara says, Beferish and Yuma, Daf Chav Alpha Mebeis, that in the second base of Mikdash, the Shekhinah wasn't Sharoi there. You didn't have God's presence in the second base. It was taken away. That was one of the differences between the first base of Mikdash and the second base of Mikdash. So the Achronim speak out. They answer that for certain tzaddikim, for certain Kohanim Gedolim, like Shimon HaTzadik and Rabbi Shmuel, there was an exception made, and the Rabban Shalom did have his presence there. Can you imagine that? That even the second base of Mikdash was presence there. We'll finalize with this. What does it mean, a Berchus Hedyot? So just know, to give you ideas in Shas, is that there's 2 times in Shas where it says that Alti Berchus Hedyot Kal B'necha. There's a little slight nuance difference. There's 2 times in Shas where it says that even a simpleton, don't turn down a bracha, even from a Hedyot, even from an ordinary person. It's here, and also Gemara Megillah Daf Tesvav and Beis, where it speaks about that Daniel, the holy Daniel, the Sefer in Tanakh, Daniel, that when he went to the Goiva Rice, he went to the lion's den. What saved him? What saved him was the fact that he got a bracha from Daryavish, who presumably wasn't even. It was Machlekes is that Daryavish, who was Esther's son. If that's the case, he was halachically Jewish then, or maybe it was another Daryavish that wasn't even Jewish at all. And